Yo, what up? It's your boy SP the GOAT, and this is our first episode breakdown for a new series with no backstory and no history. So let's give it up for that. Now, Fightland doesn't waste any time giving us what we want. Episode 1 introduces Duke, a former heavyweight champion who loses everything in one single night and gets 8 years for it. Now, after those 8 years, he pops out of prison with one thing on his mind, and that's revenge. Today, we're breaking down the characters, the power dynamics, and the details that could shape the rest of this season and possibly the rest of the series. And because this series is about boxing, at the end of each episode, I'm going to give you a scorecard for each character, and a scorecard is going to tell us who's winning Fightland. So strap in for this one-of-a-kind experience here on this channel, because unfortunately, I will never get the opportunity to break another new series for the first time ever again. So if you're here and you're rocking with me, it's special. That means a whole lot, and I appreciate it. You know how we do. Hit that hype button, hit that like button, and subscribe. I appreciate all the feedback, love, and support, and I love y'all back. So with that said, let's get into it. All right, first things first, you got Maduka Duke Kilroy. So of course, you notice the stereotypical thing about boxers is that they're usually low income and they're not very smart, but they can box. But Maduka shows the difference in him and every other boxer because he's a little bit smarter than the average boxer, but they don't tell us whether he got smart before jail or whether he got smart in jail. Either way, he's got a head on his shoulders. So the show opens up with Duke wins the heavyweight championship, but the world immediately comes crashing down. But not before we find out that he's sleeping with his boss's wife, Joy. And his boss just happens to be his boxing promoter, an alleged underworld drug kingpin. But what Duke does show us is that he has a heart, and he's been trying to convince Joy to leave Kingsley since they've had this attraction with each other since grade school. So you know there's a story about how Duke lost Joy to Kingsley in the first place. In the middle of the party, Duke tries to go out and find his brother in the parking lot. And some dudes come up and they try to rob him. They smash his left hand, so his boxing career is over. The guys try to get away, but not before accidentally marking Calvin, which is Duke's brother and the only reason why Duke boxes in the first place. So Duke goes mad, beats the life out of the second robber, and he did it on the Vegas Strip in front of everybody's camera and the police. So he gets an 8-year bid, and while he's in jail, he finds out from a Red Ribbon Army inmate, name unknown, but he's a boss. So the boss, and we'll just keep calling him Dr. Giraud until we find out what his real name is. So Dr. Giraud offers Duke the second robber that was there the night Calvin got murked. And Dr. Giraud told Duke if he helps him get back on top of the underworld in London, then when Duke gets out, he can help Duke get his revenge on Kingsley. And Dr. Giraud can take Kingsley's spot at the top of the underworld. Needless to say, Duke murked the dude for Dr. Giraud's help. So throughout the episode, you can see that Duke is driven by loyalty and loss, but his major character flaw is losing someone that he loves, because when that happens, he gets enraged. While he has some street credibility, it seems like going to jail made him a better criminal. But maybe it's also his passion toward getting back at Kingsley that's driving the way that he's moving. So let's see how Duke develops throughout this season. The next character intro we have is Kingsley Marshall. He's a Jamaican-born boxing promoter and entrepreneur who became successful in some way. He doesn't like handouts, and we know that he has a temper because when his son Zeke talks to the reporter at the championship fight, Zeke tells the reporter he's going to stick him in his ear with a pen, and Kingsley tells him don't be an idiot. He gets the reporter up to his suite somehow, knocks him out, wakes him up, and then tells him you're going to write a story about boxing and leave my criminal underworld alone. So in an attempt to get the reporter not to write anything about his criminal ties, he bashes the reporter's knee with a statue, and he ripped out some of the pages of the reporter's notebook. Now that's a huge no-no, but when you put these two things together, it can actually help prove that the reporter is right about Kingsley being a gangster, because not only is he going to have the hospital bill to prove it, he's also going to have those pages removed from his notebook. Because for journalists, you can't just start ripping pages out of your notebook without people thinking you're making up your stories. So Kingsley really didn't do himself any favors getting too emotional trying to protect his drug empire from being exposed in a newspaper. One of the things I did like about Kingsley before he disappeared was the way he showed Duke that he knows that Joy and Duke are sleeping together. Hear me out. So at Duke's championship party, he steals Duke's thunder by finishing Duke's story, but he tells Duke that he looks at Duke like Duke is a son to Kingsley. So enjoy the food and the drink that I'm providing you for your party. And that just kind of makes it set in that Duke is actually like a son to Kingsley. But if you think about it, Kingsley really just sunned Duke in front of the entire room and the woman that he's sleeping with. So it's no wonder that a few minutes later, when Duke goes to look for his brother, he gets attacked. Kingsley already knew, apparently, or at least somebody in the family did. My money is that Kingsley knew about Joy and Duke. The next person we got on this list is Joy Marshall, who is absolutely gorgeous in this series, hands down the best aesthetically pleasing character in the series so far. But her character has a major flaw, and that is that she's sleeping with Duke behind Kingsley's back. So she's not the most trustworthy person in this series. Now, while she wasn't at the championship fight, she did make it back in enough time to sleep with Duke between the fight and the championship party that night. And at that moment where those two were doing the hibbity-dibbity, she tells Duke she was looking for some property so the two of them can run off together and she could finally leave Kingsley. But she's hiding something and doesn't want to leave, and Duke keeps pressing her. Now, after Duke's bid, you can tell that Joy still has some feelings for Duke. But Duke gets a surprise because Joy has a kid about the same age as the length of time Duke was in prison. And it's my guess that Duke might be Aiden's father. And I say this because in the very next scene that we see Joy, we see her staring at Duke in the gym, and she hadn't been to the gym in almost years, if we're taking Zeke at his word. And Zeke even catches her staring and he calls her out. But if you ever have anything to give to Zeke to keep a secret, he's probably not the person to give it to, because I think he just let the cat out of the bag about him knowing Duke and Joy sleeping together. And speaking of Zeke, he's next on our list. And as I said before, he's not the brightest candle at the seance. But from the way the episode ran, we could tell that Zeke doesn't like the sun comment Kingsley made to Duke at the championship party. And that kind of gives us some insight into the issues Kingsley and Zeke might be having. But not only that, we can also tell that Zeke has an issue with mixed breed people. Let me explain. After Duke's bid and after Duke robs them, Zeke and Simeon are looking at the security footage and they see somebody take one in the arm, and one of the security people start laughing. Zeke gets up, throw dudes against the wall, and he says, "Ufkin mixed breed." Now, maybe this is a source of some tension between Zeke and Duke, or, hear me out, or Zeke doesn't like Duke because Zeke knows that Duke is smashing his stepmom. But Zeke has a problem with his stepmother too, and you can tell that from the tone he takes when he tries to give Joy a gift for Aiden. But we don't know what that issue is just yet, and we'll have to watch the rest of the season to find that out. So the next person we get introduced to, and my personal favorite on the show right now, is Sabella CeCe Marshall. And the reason why I say CeCe is my favorite character is because throughout the episode, she keeps her cool, she keeps her bearings the entire time. When Zeke tosses a threat at the reporter at the top of the episode during the championship boxing match, she just looks at Zeke like he's a failure. She doesn't open her mouth, she just throws those daggers at him. She's also the numbers person behind Kingsley's operation. She's looking at casinos and expanding their portfolio into other business ventures. But she shows her dislike for Kingsley's wife by calling Kingsley's wife instead of calling her Joy. Of course, there's some tension between Joy and CeCe, but we don't know what it is. My guess is because Joy might be the reason why their biological mother is not with Kingsley anymore. I mean, the way that you meet somebody is the way that you lose them. And right now, Joy is definitely smashing Duke, or the other way around, however you want to see it. So it's not a stretch to say that Joy may have been a homewrecker. But when Duke gets out of jail and he sees CeCe for the first time, she's completely against Duke working for the company, mainly because of the media storm that Duke left behind when he beat Dude in the middle of Vegas. Now, to double down on why Cece is my favorite in the series right now is because when they were reviewing the tape, she didn't lose her cool. She kept her calm. She kept her head about herself, while Zeke didn't. She kept it about business instead of losing her way. And not only did she call the meeting, she ran the meeting and threatened one of their distributors that if they go outside the network to get product, then she'll cut their security and raise their price on them. So she's showing that she has the skill to run the business, while Zeke is showing that he's not ready for that task yet. So we know it's a little too early to be doing predictions for the season or for the series itself, so I'm going to save y'all and myself the embarrassment. But I will say this. While the series is starting off a little bit slow and it might take a lot of viewers to distance themselves from any other series that's on Starz, I think if we give this show a fair shake and look at it as a fresh new project, I think it could work. I think the show has legs and I think it might surprise us in the future, but we gotta stick and move, bob and weave with the show. Alright, now I promised y'all a scorecard at the end of the show, and the question for today is, who's winning Fightland? And right now, the winner is Cece, because she's quietly running the operation, controlling the meeting, she's checking Zeke, she's embarrassing the distributor, specifically Nadeem, by speaking Albanian, when Nadeem says that he doesn't like black people and he doesn't think black people can run the business, especially the Marshall kids. But he said it in his native tongue, and she responded in the same. So she knows the language of the business, and she's not lacking in most of the ways that we can see just yet. She looks like the smartest Marshall in the room when her father's not there. The person falling behind, of course, is Zeke. He's a loose cannon and he doesn't have control of his emotions. He misses opportunities to become the number one person, and he does this by letting Duke manipulate him, just like when Duke weaseled his way into working for the organization again. And if I'm being serious about things, it looks like Cece is running laps around Zeke when it comes to the business. But maybe Zeke will show his worth later on in the series. We just gotta hear the boy out. And the biggest wild card so far is Duke. Now, while Duke might be driven by loyalty and loss, he's certainly not the most trustworthy person in this series. While loyalty and loss are the drivers in Duke's behaviors, he's not the most trustworthy person in this cast. The kids don't trust him, and rightfully so. They don't want him working with the business because he's the same person that just stole 3.5 million pounds worth of product. Even though they don't know it's him, they almost found out because Simeon, Zeke's right-hand man, before Duke had to murk him, told Duke that Cece and Zeke do not trust Duke. So now Duke has this information, but his wildcard status won't let us determine what he might do with that information. That's the episode, y'all. Please like, comment, subscribe, leave your comments, concerns, complaints, moans, groans, and frustrations all in the comments below, and I will read them one by one. I appreciate y'all for supporting, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Gone.